imagine that there's also, because I've been in healthcare now for 35 years, as you know, my own businesses, I've been through 3 recessions, and I believe this is the 4th recession, even though they haven't literally come out and said you're in a recession, even though we are. You know, that's just how I see it as. So I've been through 4 recessions in my lifetime. So I've gone through some crashes, I've gone through difficulties, I've gone through a lot in my life, for example. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at what my pension amount is going to be when it's time for me to draw my pension, for example, because I'm nearly 60 in a couple of months, for example. So even though I'm not going to be retiring, I still want to know what I'm going to get, you know, in 10 years' time, for example. So explore for yourselves to see what your pension amount is likely to be when it comes time to you drawing your pension. So this is why I'm looking at there's stocks in healthcare, for example, because I'm trying to stick with things that are a long-term plan, not something that's going to give me loads of money at once, something that is steady. And, you know, when it comes time to my retirement, then I will have a decent amount to live on, for example, rather than just living on a basic pension, for example. So, like I said, there's healthcare stocks, there's also mining stocks. Warren Buffett, he invested in a company who was a mine, which is Barrick Gold, I believe, for example, or services, for example. Warren Buffett also brought 3,500 tons of silver as well. He looks at a 30-year cycle, and believe you me, I am starting to watch him like a hawk. I am. And I've read, if you haven't read that book, The Snowball Effect, Warren Buffett, it's amazing. It really, truly is. It's a very big book, but it's still worth its read. So, if you don't have physical gold and silver, I always say you're best to have physical gold and silver, because people around the world, banks, our governments, for example, family offices, for example, businesses, they've actually got physical gold or silver. And I would highly suggest that you have the physical gold and silver, because you know what you've got is what you're going to get, you know. And when you're dealing with paper, you don't know what that actually is and when it's going to be available, because it is being lent out to other sources, just like yourself, for example. So just like with the UK, the Reserve, London Reserve, for example, that has been, you know, America has asked for its gold and its silver. So it's being drained for its gold and silver, and it hasn't arrived yet. As far as I know, maybe it has arrived, but it's been taking months for it to arrive, for example. So everybody's wanting their gold back in their own country, so that they've got that as a monetary system, rather than relying on the dollar or the pound, for example. They're thinking about, hey, look, let's get back to basics. Let's look at these gold and silver coins. Let's look at making this a monetary exchange rather than the cash, because the cash is devaluing. It's going down. So you got to think about your pension. If you are looking at a pension, or maybe you want to save for a house, or you want to save for university, for example, to give to a loved one. You know, people, they're saving every single month, and they're doing it. They've got it like a 10-year plan. You know, this isn't a quick, fast, get rich quick scheme. You go for the low risk things that are going to keep you as safe as possible. Because yes, sometimes it's going to go up and down, but then it will even itself out again. Then you're back up again, for example. Because, you know, April the 2nd, tariffs are going to be, you know, chucked to everybody, and we don't know what the effects are going to be. We could see that the stock market prices drop in certain aspects, you know, of products, a lot of products, but there'll be some which will be not hit, for example, and those are the safer bets, for example. So I'm just getting you thinking about things so that when you do seek legal advice or do your own research. I do my own research. You know, I do my own research because at the end of the day, you do have to pay a financial advisor, for example, and they take a percentage of what it is that you want to save, for example. I'm fascinated by this because I know that for me, all these years, money has been a weakness for me, and I'm making it my strength now to know what it is that I want to invest in, because I have invested in stock before and I lost quite a bit quite quickly, and I just couldn't rest because I was constantly watching the screen to see if it was going up and down, up and down. It was stressful. So, you know, for me, I like the safe, slow. I'm like the tortoise, right? I'm not the hare. I am literally the tortoise, and I like to go slow and slow. And if it takes me a long time, I know I'm going to get there. Rather than running and tripping and then I'm losing things, and, you know, it's just not, it's not good for your health, should I say. So let me ask you, check your retirement account. Find out what your retirement is going to be when it's time for you to retire, because you need to look at building some sort of plan to beat inflation, because inflation is stealing money from you. 7% per year. And the interest that you get from the bank really isn't much. The stock markets are a roller coaster, like I said. But here's what nobody is telling you. Silver mines, you can look at what stocks are available in silver mines, because silver is becoming so much needed because of all of this industrial, it's like we've gone back in time again. Manufacturing and industrial is now becoming the thing. Now they need the silver to produce the electric vehicles, for example, to produce the renewable energy, to produce the solar panels, to produce the like Apple products, the tech products, to produce the healthcare products as well, you know, the medical equipment. The list is on and on and on why silver is needed. And because of the law that's going to come out where we can only drive electric cars, that's going to drive up the more need for silver, as well as AI, the chips, the data centers, for example. That's going to require a lot of silver. So this silver is going to be really prominent and needed, for example. So check out what mines, see if there's any silver mines that you can find out about. And this is why I'm doing this 10-part series, to really, awaken you to look at that aspect. Because some people, they've got portfolios and they're fixated in one direction, for example. But if you want to expand your portfolio, and with an exit strategy, for example, then why not look at these different aspects that are a lot more safer than the high risk ones? Okay, so just think about this. Silver is very strong, but having it in your hands, gold and silver, is the safest bet. And what I'm noticing is that people are actually storing their gold and silver actually on their land somewhere, for example. And there's this this tube thing that you can put your gold and silver in, for example. It goes into the ground. I forgot the name of the item. I'm going to find it because I was reading about it anyway, about a month ago. And you can put your items in there, for example, but don't tell anybody that that's where you keep your stuff, because obviously you're going to leave yourself open to people taking your gold and silver, for example. It's like in the old days, people used to put money in their mattresses. They'd cut a hole in the mattress, keep shoving money in there, stitch it back up again. It seems like we're getting back to some of that as well. But check it out. Whether you're planning for a wedding in 10 years' time, because weddings aren't cheap today, for example, a wedding and a honeymoon, or a holiday of a lifetime before you retire. Imagine you travel around the world, for a whole year before you retire. Wouldn't that be lovely?